trust in my self-righteous suicide. Welcome back, everyone. It's Mitchell, your new metal voice coach, because today we are looking at the new metal band System of a Down, and I hope you're hungry because we're serving up some chop suey. Today we're going to be looking at chop suey. We are going to unpack what Serj and Darren are doing in both an isolated vocal and also a live performance. And I'm also going to give you some exercises so that you can start to condition your voice if you want to sing more like this. First up is the tone. The tones!
Okay, we keep saying the tones, but I still have no idea what the tones means.
Let's dive right into the isolated vocal track. We're going to start with Serj's voice.
Wake up! Grab brush and put a little makeup. I discuss the fade away, the shake up. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to. Grab a brush and put a little makeup. You wanted to. I discuss the fade away, the shake up. You wanted to. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? You wanted to. Well, I don't think you trust.
Okay, I'm hearing a lot of specific things. First of all, this is a very percussive and intense intro. Dun-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, right? So I'm thinking two things right away. Before we even unpack the specifics of the tone, it's worth noting that he's using his voice pretty quickly. And there are two things that are going to help you move your voice pretty quickly. It's the way that your jaw moves or doesn't move, and the way that your tongue gets out of the way. It's gonna be really, really easy to get tongue-tied if your tongue is tight. If your tongue is flexible and fluid, you're not going to have a hard time singing something like this. So from the get-go, before we even do any singing of the song, let's warm up our tongue and our jaw. Your tongue is actually pretty big. If I stick my tongue out all the way, you can see a little bit of it, but it actually goes pretty far back. And anytime we open our mouth up really wide, it's gonna pull back a little bit because our body thinks we're about to eat something yummy, maybe some chop suey. I would love that right now. I'm hungry. Anyway, our tongue has evolved to taste food and identify things. It's evolved to protect us from choking. It isn't really evolved to help us sing. So we want to get it out of the way. And the reason we want to get it out of the way and loose is because when the tongue pulls back, it makes the vocal tract smaller. Your vocal tract is the space after your vocal folds where the sound that you've created is shaped and then formed and then leaves out of your mouth, okay? So we don't want a vocal tract that's blocked off. We want a vocal tract that's open so that we don't have to work so hard here. This is gonna be especially useful later. So now that we know why we're conditioning the tongue, let's get it released. Here's one tongue exercise I like to do. This is also going to be a warm-up. If you have a hard time matching pitch or you can't follow along with this exercise for some reason, I would recommend doing this exercise but just singing this song in a comfortable part of your voice. So first we're gonna take our tongue and we're gonna stick it out all the way. First, stick your tongue out all the way. Then stick it to the right.
I don't like that. Put your tongue back in your mouth. Put your tongue in your mouth and close it.
And I want you to stick it out as far as you can and then curl it to the side. And what you want to feel is a stretch in the opposite side. So I'm sticking my tongue out to the right. I want you to feel it in the back. And if you just hold that for a second, you'll start to feel a really nice stretch. I like to move up and down a scale with this tongue position a few times just to get my tongue released. Let's do a pattern like this. And let's say A. Let's just say A. Let's not even sing, let's speak a little bit. You don't have to sound good at all. One more. You can keep going up if you want to. You could start this lower if this gets too high for you. If you have a higher voice and this started too low for you, you can do it an octave up. You can do it higher. It really doesn't matter. All that matters is that we're singing and that we're getting the tongue out of the way. So once we've reached the top, and again, you don't need to push too high, let's switch sides. And calm down. One more. Now, ideally, if I was warming up for real, or if you were warming up or practicing, you could do this for a lot longer. If your tongue starts to feel a little sore or your jaw starts to feel a little sore, just know that's normal because this is a little bit of a workout. If your tongue isn't used to releasing, it's not going to want to, and it's going to fight you back a little bit. You're not going to hurt yourself doing this exercise. Okay, next up, let's do a little bit of a jaw exercise, and we're going to apply this directly to the lyrics of the song, okay? I want you to take your hands, go like this, and then manifest being a sloth for a second.
It's a Vigorous!
We're going to take these little paws, these little sloth paws, and we are going to put them on our face, okay? And then we're going to drop our jaw and go, oh! And you'll feel that there's a space between your upper jaw and your lower jaw. You can feel it with your knuckles or your fingers. You don't have to push very hard. I like doing it like this. You could do this, but this is going to open up your rib cage, and that's why I like it. And we're just going to speak the words. We're going to speak the words, okay? So we have wake up, grab a brush and put a little makeup. You don't need to sing this. You don't need to sound good. We are just letting the jaw go. Wake up, grab a brush and put a little makeup. I took it away the take up. Why did you get up on the table? Okay? Let your diction suffer. It's going to sound a little weird, but we're getting your jaw used to not activating on every word. If your jaw is activating every time you go to sing, when you have to sing really fast like this, you are going to trip over your words, and you also might start to have a lot of tension leak in, which is going to put tension on your voice, and then you're going to be so sad. So, back to this. Wake up, grab a brush and put a little makeup. How does get the shake up? Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? There you go, create another fable. I'd recommend doing this once or twice. Go through the lyrics once or twice. And now we're loosened up. And now we can actually talk about the singing itself.
Wake up! Grab brush and put a little makeup. I discussed the fade away the shake up. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table?
Serj sounds intense. I think that his tone sounds angry or urgent because it's not so far forward. He does have a nice yummy focus, but Serj is no stranger to lifting his soft palate. Your soft palate is just a part of your mouth, and when your mouth or your oral cavity is more open and there's space in the soft palate, the sound is going to be larger. If it's flat, it's going to be softer. If you're gross and you want to put your finger in your mouth like I am, you can actually feel where your soft palate begins. If you go behind your teeth and slowly go back, it has ridges, and eventually it gets really, really soft. That's literally where your soft palate begins. So he has no issue with raising his soft palate a little bit, and if you want to raise your soft palate too, all you gotta do is yawn. Hey, SpongeBob! Hey!
Hey, SpongeBob!
Hey, Patrick!
Hey, SpongeBob!
A lot of people will say that Serj has like a special opera technique when he sings, but he doesn't. He's not trained in opera or anything. He has a history of exploring his own culture's music growing up, and some of that singing might have used a raised soft palate, or maybe that's just how he wanted to sing, but he doesn't have this special opera training. The reason people say that he has special opera training is because he raises his soft palate sometimes. And opera singers, they do that as well. Also too, like, just because someone trained in opera doesn't make their voice any more special than anyone else's. Anyways, as a tangent for another day. Serj is raising his soft palate just a little bit, and that's giving the sound more richness. So there's a nice focused sound. Whoa, wake up! But he has a little bit of a yawn in there. Oh, wake up, wake up, wake up! And one thing that's interesting about this is that it gives the listener this idea that he's using more power than he is. Serj has a pretty meaty, strong voice, but he sings really, really high in this song, and we're going to get to that later when we talk about registration. I want you to think about getting your power from that sound, from that space, from physics, instead of thinking about singing harder. So we have a little bit of brightness, yummy. Not too much. Yummy. Ah. Then we have that ah. And then we also have this little bit of like an R sound, okay? If you go R, you're gonna feel some sound in the middle or the back of your throat. He does have a little bit of this R. I'm not sure if that's just the way that he talks growing up. I don't know if that has anything to do with his upbringing, but it's just how he talks and it's just how he sings. And that is also going to make the sound a little bit darker, okay? A bright sound would be, yummy. A dark sound would be like, yummy. That's really dark. It's too dark. I don't like that. By relying on space and physics to create that more powerful sound, he's able to use his voice in a flexible way. This is also why he's able to sing these really fast passages with what sounds like a lot of strength. So we have, wake up, grab a brush and put a little makeup. This is a better way to shake up. Why you leave the keys up on the table? There you go, create another fable. And we haven't even gotten into the distortion yet, but that sounds nice and powerful, but I'm actually not trying too hard just yet. Let's look at something a little bit more lyrical now.
When angels deserve to die and my self-righteous suicide.
Okay, this is really nice. His tone has a little bit of vibrato in it, which again might be why some people think he has this like special classic technique. His voice is special, don't get me wrong. It's just not like a special opera technique, okay? It's just vibrato. In addition to noting the vibrato, let's take a look at the live version of this song at this timestamp. Oh, look at that. Do you see what his mouth is doing? Okay, so because I'm obsessed with this opera myth, if Serj was an opera singer, he wouldn't be singing die, he would be singing die, and his mouth would be really tall. Serj is using a nice wide sound, and this is creating a really cool contrast because remember, he has this slightly darker tone, but it's nice and bright because his jaw is a little bit flattened. Die. One of those will do. Die. Before, his jaw is in a looser position, right? Wake up! Come on, put a little makeup! But here he's singing more lyrically, it's more legato, it's flowier, and so he's brightening it up and flattening that focus. And I think that sounds pretty cool. So see what happens if you sing like that. If you combine the tone qualities that we use, the darker tone qualities, but then this brighter shape, you're gonna get a nice balanced sound. It's gonna have depth and it's also going to have focus and it's going to pierce right through the listener's ears. I'm bored of talking about the tones. Let's move on to the registration. I need water. Okay, let's talk about Serj's registration or what's going on at a vocal fold level. Serj sings really high in this song. He also sounds really powerful. Is he a freak of nature? No. Is he a really good singer? Yes. My goal for this section is to help you understand how important it is to balance flexibility with power. We're going right to the exciting part here. It's not playing.
Father! 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 Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Father, into your hands, why have you forsaken me?
Okay, it actually doesn't sound so intense when you hear it isolated like that. I think in the context of the song where the instruments are heavy and distorted and the drums are intense, it does sound a lot more intense. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's just an opinion thing, but right right here where he's singing Father into your hands, Father into your hands, it actually sounds really nice. It sounds kind of sweet, actually. It doesn't sound as angry. Obviously, the screamy parts or the yelly parts do sound angry, and we are going to get into the distortion. We're also going to get into that dolphin-y thing that Darren is doing. But first, I want to talk about how to sing and learn how to sing notes like these, okay? So we have Father! It really sounds like he's going, Father! Right? It does sound really intense. And I'm going to explain more about that later on, but for now you just have to trust the process. Please, please, just trust me. We talked a little bit about spacing in physics before and how that can create depth in a sound, and we are going to use that again here. First, we need to lighten up the sound a lot, so as always, let's do a little bit of a falsetto exercise. If you've never used your falsetto or your head voice before, it's a sound that happens as you slide your voice up after it breaks. So, it's going to be more pronounced in people that went through testosterone-based puberty. It might be a little bit harder to isolate for people with much higher voices, but we're going to do a falsetto exercise, okay? We're gonna just use a nice major third and we're gonna make a spaghetti-shaped hole with our mouth. Leave room for a single noodle.
I did not order a single noodle of spaghetti.
And let's just slide up and down. Bonus points if you are very gentle with this. And eventually, when you get high enough, you're going to start to feel the sound fly from here into your forehead. For guys, it's around A4 to C#5. For ladies, it's going to be a little higher. If the sound isn't flying into your head at all, that just means that things are not working quite properly in the voice. It also might mean you're using too much power. It's okay if it's not working. Just make it as light as you can, but we're gonna take that lightness and we're gonna now bring it as low as we can. So usually you would think that there's gonna be more power at the bottom, but we don't want any power at the bottom. Let's expand this to a major triad in a different inversion. And let's go down as low as we can. Your voice might start to crack a little on the bottom. Ooh, kind of like that. Ooh. Good. So what we're doing here is we are warming up the smallest teeny tiny part of our voice so that that can do some of the heavy lifting when it comes to singing these high notes. He's singing up to like a C5 or something like that. And for most guys, that's high. Might not be high just to hit one time, but to perform in the context of a song with an hour, 2 hour long set, that's definitely high. So once we've warmed that up, we can try to start lightening up the voice a little bit. Whoa! Whoa! Let your voice break a little bit. Whoa! Shout out to Chris Lipe. He's the Yodel King, and he made me want to be the Yodel King. So if you've never watched his videos before, definitely go check those out. Whoa! If you're having a hard time doing this and it feels like there's a lot of a weight on your voice, try taking a little bit of the power away and then try making it a little bit whiny, like you're a really bratty baby. Wah! 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 Okay, I've had enough fun with this. Let's move on. What would happen if we sang Father like this? Where? Father! Father! Now, how is that going to turn into what Serj just did? Again, trust the process. Don't move forward until you can do Father! and it feels really free. If singing doesn't feel good, it's probably not going to sound very good either. So, Father! And as you start to do this more over the period of a week, or 2 weeks, or 8 weeks, you'll notice that you can start to add a little bit more power in, a little bit more of a chesty sensation. I could probably chest this if I wanted to. Father! Barely. It doesn't feel good. And guess what? It's also not very vibrant. It's better to do this. Father! 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 Okay? With the distortion, it will sound like this with the distortion. Father! Father! So please trust the process.
Your hands, why have you forsaken me? In your eyes forsaken me. In your thoughts forsaken me.
He has this really nice bright tone here. It almost sounds to me like the sound is just living in this mask area. I can see the aura and whoa, as opposed to whoa, 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 whoa. It's in your heart forsaken me, in your thoughts forsaken me. It's really living in this nice bright and light area. And that's what mixed voice is going to provide for you. That's what wah is going to provide for you.
In your heart forsaken me, oh,
This is the moment everybody is waiting for.
Self-righteous suicide.
So that's the climax, right? He does this little whoa, 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 whoa. And again, I don't sound like Serj yet, but I will if I just practice the agility before I add on the power. There's no way he'd be able to do that riff that goes, whoa, if he's muscling his way through this. So I don't want you to muscle your way through it either. As your mixed voice starts to develop and you get more flexibility, you'll be able to add a little bit more power on. So if I were gonna be learning this song, I'm gonna take all of it out first. We got, whoa, trust in my... And for that, you could experiment with shape. Whatever shape you pick should be consistent. So if you want to do wide, trust in my. If you want to do tall, my. Tall is going to make it sound heavier. So I would probably pick tall because my voice at this point is going to sound a little bit lighter. Trust in my self-righteous suicide. It is a high C. And for me, the high C is after my second break. Remember before when we were doing falsetto stuff and the sound flew up to my forehead? Ooh, that's what happens with this note. And so you want to be very strategic when you're singing something like this. The first note is on a G, which for a lot of people who have been singing for a long time isn't too hard, okay? This G is something that we could muscle a little bit. Cha! Cha! But if we need to end up on this C5 and we can't sing it like that, then we've got tune qualities to our voice that are not gonna sound good. It's gonna sound like, trust in my self-righteous suicide. And we don't want that. That's too inconsistent. So, because we have no option but to sing this high note a little bit lighter, we're also going to sing the lower note lighter. This is going to create a uniform sound, okay? So now we have, if we have, whoa, this is the quality we're going to be working with. Trust in my self-righteous suicide. Suddenly we're not hitting a ceiling anymore and we're not going to crash and burn when we go for that note. And when we add the distortion on, trust me, again, trust the process. It's gonna sound huge. It's gonna sound explosive. It's gonna sound gritty. It's gonna sound dirty. If you wanna go super crazy like me, you can identify the top note of any song and find out what quality of your voice you need to hit that, and then apply that quality to the rest of the song, okay? That way, you don't ever have to make a drastic registration change, and then you never risk your voice going clunk, One way you could think about this is riding a bike. Every time you change a gear on a bike, it goes clunk. Every time we change registrations in our voice, it goes clunk. And it gets really squeaky. Not everybody's voice is going to be as squeaky as mine. Some are going to be more squeaky. My point is that if we can be aware of where our voices change, then we're a lot less likely to crash and burn. So I've come to understand that my voice is going to change around like A, B flat, B, C. That might be different for a really low bass. For a higher tenor, that might be even higher. And it's kind of up for you to figure out. But if you want to figure out where that happens, go back to your falsetto exercise and notice where things start to shift upward. It's a lot more subtle, but it is something that you can figure out. All right, it's the most exciting time of the day. It's time for distortion. Let's take a look at some of the different distortions that Serj is using. At the beginning of the song, his voice is fairly melodic. We can hear the melody, wake up, grab a brush and put a little makeup. And we can also hear that there's a little bit of dirtiness to the voice, okay? So we've got a gritty or rumbly singing style to start. And then in the bridge, he doesn't use any. Actually, I lied. He does use some. There you go. I wouldn't call that a scream quite yet. It's just dirtier than what he was doing, okay? Let's go into the fathers. He's using two different kinds of distortion here. One is father, and the other is like a father, something crazy like that. So one of these is more voiced and the other is more screamed, but he is screaming now. And then in this climax, he's gonna do more of that gritty singing again. Awesome, okay? There's a little bit of distortion there as well. Darren also has some screaming in this one. I'll get to that in a sec. Let's start with Serj's melodic distortion first. So when it comes to distortion, there are a couple different ways we can make it. Serj uses what I would refer to as like a medium-low distortion, meaning the sensation that I feel when I do it is medium or low, and it's not super high, okay? This is going to complement his tone very nicely. Wake up! Wake up! It's going to make it sound lower than it is instead of higher than it is. And this is why a lot of people think that he's using so much power on a registration level in his voice because it sounds like it. He is tricking us all, and I am happy for it. To start to create some of these sounds, we need to understand a little bit about vocal fold closure. When the voice is open, it's kind of slapping around like that. When we tighten things up, the voice is going to start to rub in different spots, and that's going to create what we know as distortion. But we can also use additional tissues in our voice to create a little extra rubbing, and I think that's what Serj is doing. Here's something I want you to try. I want you to go like this. Huh. We're doing a glottal attack. Only do it a couple times. You don't need to be doing this all the time. Huh. And now I want you to go and do the same thing, but more gentle. And think about what's happening here. You could close your eyes if it helps. I just want you to feel there's some closure happening here. Now, you're not actually feeling your literal voice close. We don't have nerves in our voice, but you're feeling this stuff around close, and that is shutting your voice. You can do this silently too. Now, I want you to make a sound like, whoa, whoa. And then I want you to do it breathy. See what happens. Whoa, Whoa. Now I want you to close your voice and do the same thing. Whoa. Whoa. And you'll feel that things are a little bit tighter. They're not quite rubbing enough to get some distortion just yet. But let's see what happens if we do both at the same time. So we have close, then we have clean, then we have breathy. Do both at the same time. And what you'll feel is a very, very gentle closing off in the back of your instrument, but you also might start to hear some rubbing, okay? I wouldn't say Serj is using only fry or only false chord. Again, those terms tend to refer to sounds more than what's specifically happening in a lot of cases. His doesn't sound purely one or the other. It sounds like it's somewhere in the middle. If fry's up here, ooh, if it's up here and false chord is down here, it's somewhere in the middle. Ooh, Father, into your hands. It's closer to the false chordy sound for sure, but it's in the middle. And that's why I like this kind of sound. If you can make that sound, then you can apply it to words. Whoa, 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 whoa. And if you can apply it to words, then you can apply it to singing. I want you to apply this to your mixed voice that we worked on. Fa, Father into, fa, Father into your hands, I command my spirit. Father into your hands, why have you forsaken me? We just spent so much time sounding light and whiny, but suddenly things are really starting to come together, aren't they? It's because we trusted the process. Let's see what happens if we apply this to the beginning of the song. So we have, wake up. Let's add our tone. Wake up, wake up. Now let's add our distortion. Wake up, grab a brush up and a little makeup. Hide this fade away the shake up. Why'd you leave the kids up on the table? There you go, create another fable. Grab a brush up and a little makeup. Suddenly we are sounding a lot more aggressive, and I think that if I practice this over and over, I think I'd be able to really tune into what Serj sounds like. I'm not going to do that because I don't need to sound like Serj. I don't have a project that sounds anything like System of a Down, and I want to sound like Mitchell, but there's nothing wrong with being inspired by an artist and utilizing what they use if it's going to make you feel better about your voice, if it's going to make your art better. Let's tack this on to that really high note. So we have, yeah, and we have, trust in my self-righteous suicide. I think that sounds okay. And one cool thing about that is that it didn't hurt. I felt like all the sound was living up here. It was whoa, 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 whoa. And I feel like the distortion is what was making the sound deeper and more dramatic. Again, singing with distortion really is playing a trick on the audience, unless you're really, really gunning and hurting yourself, which I get why some people do, but I want to show you how to do things in a way that feels good. Lastly, we have the screams. Darren is using a fry-like scream. There's a lot of pitch to it, so it can't be pure fry, but we could just call it a fry scream. I don't care what you call it. And Serj is doing a little bit more of like a hybridized scream. He doesn't actually do this, I don't think, in the recording. Let's see.
Wake up! Wake up!
I was wrong. He does. But even with this, you hear like a rah, which is going to make it more of a hybridized scream than the like pure metal scream. So the way that I would approach this personally, I'm going to use some sort of like lower distortion. Since we already are using lower distortion for the Serj voice, let's do that closed position, but let's try some false foldy stuff this time. So what if we do a sigh? And what if we take all the power away? We hold on to it. That's nice and consistent. And then we put in the closure. And then we raise the pitch a little. of in like a cracky part. Ah, ah, ah. To me, that feels like what I'm hearing. It doesn't feel so, it doesn't really feel like that to me. This feels a little bit lighter. And it feels like the voice is maybe not closed so hard. Maybe the voice is open a little bit more. Remember, if the voice is fully closed, we can't really make one pitch. So it's going to sound like, but if we open up the voice a little bit, we can get a little bit of that in there, and we can target that pitch. Ah, ah, ow! And that's going to sound really cool. So one more time. He does like rah, rah! And to me, that feels true to what Serj is doing. I do think that there are other ways you could make this same sound with a different strategy, but this is just one of them. One of the main reasons I wanted to make this video was because of what Darren is doing in the father section. Listen to this. He's doing this hybridized scream that also sounds a little bit like a dolphin, and I love it. This scream has two elements. One is a yodel, but it's not the normal yodel we use down here. It's the yodel between the first and second break, between falsetto-y notes. So remember this thing? It's a yodel there, and it's higher. One way that you can do this is to do like a, maybe like a Tiny Tim impression. My favorite way to find it is to just start with a yodely and then move up. If you're having a hard time doing this, it probably means you're using too much power, or this part of your voice just isn't coordinated enough. So just keep practicing lightening things up. Now, on top of this, we also have some sort of distortion. To me, it sounds a little higher than Serj's. That could just be because Darren's voice is a little bit higher, but it also could be because he's using a different strategy. Maybe he's using like a hybridized fry sound, or he could even still be using a lighter, like false chordy scream. Instead of being down here, it might just be a little bit higher. So something like father, 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 father. Now this might not be the most comfortable, but if he's only doing it a few times per set, that's fine. I like that Darren used his voice like this. He could have just done a nice scream, father! It doesn't have the same desperation. It doesn't have the same grief. So I'm really glad that he chose to let his voice be less technically good, and he chose to focus on the artistry of it. That is something that we can all learn from. Now that I think about it, I would just use the same type of distortion that we used for Serj's voice for this Darren part if you were ever going to sing it. There's no sense in trying to learn all these different distortions in one video, but I'm definitely going to do a video on System of a Down again sometime, and so I think I will definitely explore Darren's techniques more in a future video. Thank you guys for watching. It's really interesting to go from making short form content to making long form content, and I'm really having a good time making these videos for you. So if there's something else you want to see in the videos, or some things that you think should be different, feel free to comment below and I'll read your comments. Shoot me a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you next time.